Neighborhood history 24/7, 365 or 366 days when it's a leap year. This is our part 2 of our weekend Q&A, Ask Me Anything, where I will answer all of your questions related to history and social studies for the next hour or so, focusing on any topic particular to social studies or social sciences, the humanities, geopolitics, past and present, history and geography that you guys are interested in learning about. And that's what we do here on the channel with our long-form content that drops every Monday and Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And of course, we also have our live stream lectures every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and our Q&As, Ask Me Anything, Fridays and Saturdays, usually at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and short form videos every day on daily history, who was born on this day, who passed away on this day, and my usual series, like my current short series on Russian history and things like that. So please go check those out and everything. I did a video just recently about the history of Moscow that I really enjoyed making, so I hope you guys check that out and enjoy that. And welcome to the Friendly Neighborhood History channel. For the next hour or so, I will be bringing you history in a friendly, neighborly manner. And I'm sorry I didn't get started earlier, but I was trying to find some ventilation as my studio isn't well air conditioned, and I'm going through a heat wave where I am right now. But I appreciate everyone's patience and everything. Make sure to like the live and subscribe for more, as the great Kevin always says when he joins us for our live streams. And Harry is here and Hars are here to hold down the chat. Really appreciate the both of you. Good to see you both. And Harsonet is already highly disappointed with my president's tier list video. If we're going to talk about it and how disappointed you are in it, you should put the link to it so people can go and watch that. I'm very proud of that video. It took over an hour to make and everything, and was an hour of me just describing different presidents and their rankings going from George Washington to the modern day. So please go check out that video. I would really appreciate Hars. We can talk about it, but you got to put it in the chat so that everyone else can go and watch it. Semtex, great to see you as always. Woodrow Wilson isn't so racist, so let's put him in the B tier. That is not why I put him in the B tier. That is a misquote of what I said. And I understand a lot of people have a passion for hating Woodrow Wilson. Hating Woodrow Wilson is the new thing that's in amongst anyone who studies U.S. history. And I understand why a lot of people don't like Woodrow Wilson and his impudence, his racism, the creation of the Federal Reserve. Libertarians don't like him. A lot of conservatives do not like him. Obviously, a lot of people who criticize American presidents and America's racist past do not like him. So, yeah. So yeah, it's interesting the way Woodrow Wilson has become a reviled president, and in many ways I agree with these sentiments, but I don't think he was a terrible president, and I think winning a world war puts you in a higher echelon of presidents, and that's hard to argue with for two presidents that I'm not particularly big fans of, FDR and Woodrow Wilson. So Koala, hello, welcome to the Friendly Neighborhood History channel. Say something about Scotland. Obviously the Scottish Highlands, some of the most beautiful areas in the world, and an area I'm definitely wanting to get to as soon as possible. Something you may not know about Scottish history, I'm sure you know this, Tam, is that Macbeth, the famous Shakespearean play, is not a fictional character. Macbeth was a real Scottish king who fought against Duncan and Malcolm, or was in between those two kings, and Shakespeare changed it to be more violent and bloody, but Macbeth was a real king. Here's another thing you don't know. Scotland and England were only unified when Scotland's colonies, called New Caledonia and modern-day Panama, failed because of pressure from natives and the Spanish. So, there you go. Tam, I hope you enjoyed that. I appreciate you mentioning some Scottish history. It's always good to share history wherever you are in the world. Tell me where you are, and I'll tell you a little bit of the history of that region. And when you enjoy what you hear, please like and subscribe. This is the Friendly Neighborhood History channel, where we bring you history in a friendly neighborhood manner. And Tam, I'm sure you could take it up with Harry, because he doesn't think Scotland should be free, at least not necessarily. And many of the Scots don't think that Scotland should be free, but I love Scotland. I love their history. Fascinating and incredible people, far more than Mel Gibson reductively put it in Braveheart. So Koala, good to see you. Elong, I'm very sorry to hear that. Greetings from India. Thank you so much for joining us, Shruti. And I love India. We were talking a lot about India, a lot going on there, obviously, with India and Pakistan. A lot of people want to learn history when a war or political strife is happening. And that's something that we provide here at the Friendly Neighborhood History channel, history so that we can learn from the past mistakes so we don't repeat them in the present or the near future. So if you like history, you're in the right place. Consider liking and subscribing. We do this every Friday and Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And for the next hour or so, I will be answering all of your questions related to history and social studies. And there are a lot of people joining us today. Welcome. So good to see all of you. This is the Friendly Neighborhood History channel, and becoming a friendly neighborhood historian is as easy as liking and subscribing. I'm not in my usual, for those of you who usually see us, I am not in my usual dressing gown because the heat wave is just really bad. It took me forever to get the live started because of that, but yes. Yeah, Geopira, I wouldn't quite put it like that, but to some extent. Yeah, Chris, don't say that. The Scottish are amazing. Nuo, great to see you. Can you talk about African American history, please? So African American history is almost as integral to American, or at least U.S. history, as it is for white Americans, because it was in 1619, and this is where the 1619 Project comes from, that the first African slaves were brought to the New World. They were expected to be freed over a period of time, similar to indentured servants, which were quite common in the colonies, but obviously it became a source of cheap labor, and when the American experiment really began, you couldn't have slaves if you believed in independence, so the slaves were obviously inferior because of race and didn't deserve freedom. So slavery took on a racial epitaph that it didn't quite have before then in American slavery. And by the time of the Civil War, 4 million of the 9 million people living in the Confederate States of America, the southern states that broke away from the Union, were slaves. So that crippled the Southern economy, crippled Southern development, and helped the Union eventually win the war. So happy to talk about African American history, and I hope you enjoyed that. I'm doing good, New. I hope you're doing great too. We are talking about whatever you want to talk about, because this is a Q&A, Ask Me Anything, where you can ask me about any particular historical topic you would like. So thank you for joining us here at the Friendly Neighborhood History channel. And yes, hail the Jacobites, the Stuarts trying to reclaim the power in the 17th century. So, and Joey, I will not shut up. Make me shut up. Thank you, Gerante. I appreciate you saying that. People say that to me all the time. People also say salam. They also greet me in different religious greetings that I always appreciate. Shalom, salam. I mean, Shabbat is going on right now, so there's that. Howdy, joining from Pakistan. I love Indian history. I love Pakistani history. For a long time, those two areas, very much the same entity. And it's unfortunate what has happened now. And I know a lot of people are very worried about that. And that's why they come here, to get answers about the history and learn the geopolitical situation, which I do talk about here at the Friendly Neighborhood History channel. I know a lot about Georgia's history, the Goober State, the state of peanuts, the state of President Jimmy Carter, the last of the 13 colonies set up by James Oglethorpe as an effort to basically allow debtors to pay back their debts to the British government. And yes, Harry is absolutely right. We're pinning that. Like and subscribe. Hars, if you could put the social media handles in there, there's more places to follow me there. So thank you for subbing and liking, Cameron. I appreciate you so much. People here in Canada messed up by voting Liberals and were in trouble with housing and uncontrolled immigration. I don't know if the Liberals in Canada don't have a solution to those issues. We'll see exactly what happens. Carney obviously kind of came from behind. The fact that they got rid of Justin Trudeau obviously brought them the ability to get underway. Okay, so yeah, it's bright red with sunburn. I'm really sorry to hear that, Harry. Thoughts on the new Pope? An American surprised everybody. Nobody expected there to be an American Pope, but then again, nobody expected there to be a Latin American Pope with Bergoglio when he was elected 12 years ago. So it's quite fascinating. Here's what's happened. So yeah. Let me see here. Shrukin, great to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. The tale of a true origin of the term Braveheart. Braveheart does not refer to William Wallace. It refers to the bravery of Robert the Bruce in rallying the Scottish to overthrow the English under King Edward II in the early 1300s, the 1310s. The Battle of Stirling and Bannockburn are examples of this. You can ask as many serious questions about history and social studies as you like, Sonny. That's what we do here. Naylor, hello. So hopefully, Buster, you're still here and you heard my answer about the new Pope. It's interesting to see he's kind of seemingly a unifying figure with some conservative and traditional elements, but also some liberal progressive elements. And the church has been kind of divided on that during the pontificate of Francis. So I think the Catholic Church really hopes that Pope Leo XIV will be a unifying sort of pope that will appeal to conservatives and to liberals, more progressive elements of the church. He is a registered Republican, being an American and a Peruvian with dual citizenship. We can actually look at voting records. He is a registered Republican, obviously strong on moral issues that the Catholic Church concerns itself with, be it abortion or LGBTQ rights, which is obviously panicking a lot of people who want the church to become more open about that and making questions and worries for gay and bisexual and transgender people and those communities who want more inclusivity and welcomeness in the Catholic Church. At the same time, he has also been extremely critical of Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and their plans for immigration and deportations and things like that, claiming Jesus was an immigrant. Why did the whole world want to loot India? India is a place of incredible resources and supplies. The spices that brought the trade from the Spanish, the French, the Dutch, and the British were some of the first, some of the earliest things that brought Europeans to India, going around the Cape of Good Hope at the bottom of Africa to get there, starting in the late 1400s and onwards. And eventually the British and the French, and the British ended up prevailing, figured that they could colonize India rather than just going there to trade. They could get permanent setups there and make it a lot easier to harvest these resources and supplies. I don't know what the Cambrian explosion is. Note, namaste to you too. But yeah, Uday, that is why the world has wanted to loot India. All of the supplies and resources, it's quite an incredible place. And interestingly enough, my ancestors, as far as I know, do not own slaves, and the vast majority of humans can trace their ancestry back to slaves in one way or another. There were thousands of African Americans in the United States who were freed from slavery, then went on to own slaves, and 10 million slaves in Africa exist today, and they are being enslaved by fellow Africans. The African slave trade began with the Arabs. Muslims cannot enslave other Muslims, so they started enslaving Africans. Which wars in the Middle East are you interested in, Sonny? I have a lot of knowledge about that and be happy to talk about that. Do you know the history of dragons? Why is it everywhere in the world? It's this idea based on a mythology of a great monster and beast. There are technically dragons, kimono dragons and things like this, but this idea of a snake-like figure, obviously in the Western world, when you're developing in the Middle Ages, the Knight's Tale, chivalric stories of brave knights in shining armor fighting for fair maidens and collecting gold for their kings. They're fighting large serpents, the dragons of old, tantamount and similar to the devil, so who is called the serpent and equated in Christianity with the serpent in the Garden of Eden with Adam and Eve. And that character can be shown in a most monstrous way as a dragon. And one of the greatest sins for the medieval Western church is this idea of greed and avarice, and so a dragon would want to protect gold and things like this. So this is religious imagery, metaphors slipping their way allegorically into the writings of poets and bards and ballads throughout much of the medieval and early modern period. Thank you, Semtex. I so appreciate that. And if you don't have any questions, I appreciate you sticking around and listening and paying attention, liking the live and learning about some history with me today. How is the Afghan, Iraq, and Iran and America is the hero while war is being fought in Iraq? I don't see the United States necessarily as the hero. I think it was a horrible misstep to invade those countries, get rid of governments that were obviously questionable but had a grip on that area. And Afghanistan is still ruled by the Taliban. Iraq has become a complete mess. The democratic experiment there never worked. The democratic experiment in Iran 25 years before that didn't work. The Middle East, for whatever reason, is not open to democracy the way the West is, and that's okay. The United States just had to learn that lesson painfully through trial and failure, and the most recent example of that was Syria, where the fall of Assad brought out a group of Syrian rebels who seemed to be no different than him. Know anything about the Illyrians? Not a huge amount. I've heard a little bit about them. Illyria and Dalmatia, that was along the coast of the Adriatic Sea, separating, or I think it's called the Adriatic, separating Italy from the Balkans in southeastern Europe. The Romans conquered them, and then they eventually became the backbone of what became Yugoslavia, but includes areas like Slovenia, Croatia, stuff like that. So let me see here. I'm trying to catch up to the chat, so if it's taking a while to get your question answered, just know I'm going through every question I can. Thank you for joining us from all over the world: India, Pakistan, Great Britain, Scotland. Love seeing all the participation. And no smoking jacket for me today. It is way too hot. I am surviving a heat wave, doing my best to stay hydrated and keep you entertained on this Saturday afternoon and evening. Who will win, do you think? I think the West will put a lot of pressure on Pakistan to back down. I don't think Pakistan has enough allies that are going to countermand Western demands, because the West is going to cozy up with Prime Minister Modi. So anyways, let me see here. What's your opinion on St. Malachi prophecy about 112th Pope being the evil Pope? I've heard that prophecy before. Apparently it hasn't come true because there were only 266 on his list, and now there's a 267th. Who wrote the Vedas and what are they about? If I'm correct, the Vedas are the ancient Hindu scriptures. There are different ones created in different eras to help understand Hindu and what you could call Indian, which would be the subcontinent of India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, India, Bhutan, Nepal, their culture and their religious practices. Do I believe in the concept of God? I don't like to share a lot about my personal life. I don't like to share a lot about my personal beliefs. I try to be an objective retainer and sharer of information, but the truth of the matter is I do happen to believe in a higher power, a God of some sort. I don't go into details about which God that is or why or how I believe in that God, but at the same time, that doesn't mean that I have no, but this is a channel where I just bash skepticism. I'm a historian. I have to be skeptical. I understand why people are skeptical. Let me see here. Do you know history about dry? Oh, I think I answered that one. I'm trying to answer as soon as I can. But his micromanaging and unpreparedness of the U.S. military made him a bad leader during then. Hars, the U.S. won the war. The U.S. was one of the major reasons the Allies won the war. I think the U.S. did fine. It wasn't terribly prepared, but I mean, the war was over within a year after that, and there were several reasons for that. A brief description of the troubles in Northern Ireland. Obviously, the Irish independence of 1922 wasn't good enough for many Irish who believed that the northern area of Ulster should gain its independence from them and become part of them because they are culturally Irish despite being religiously Protestant and not Catholic like the rest of Ireland. So because Southern Ireland is Catholic, Northern Ireland is Protestant, the British have been hoping to hold on to their UK and hold on to Northern Ireland since then. And the IRA and other groups have put pressure, sometimes militantly, to unsee that happening. And right now, both Scotland and Northern Ireland and Wales have no problem remaining part of the UK. The most recent votes, I'm sorry, Temp was bringing this up, but the most recent votes have shown that Scotland, Northern Ireland, and Wales have no problem being part of England. And yes, I will get to your questions. Harry, please remind everybody that I am trying to answer them as soon as I possibly can. I will read that later on. Thank you so much. Pakistan army generals are buying land in London with war money, and Pakistani people are busy making memes and spreading fake propaganda. People do that during war. Almost all propaganda is fake. If you could time travel to what historical event just to observe, why would you pick and why? Oh, there's so many, but I'm going to look at Waterloo. I want to see Napoleon's face when he realizes he's lost. I wasn't there, but I've read about it. Can't wear the robe in this heat. Sorry, Running Man. What has this guy done to deserve this nightmare chat? Absolutely nothing other than share information, be totally transparent, and give as an objective as possible, and look as good as I possibly can. People get all sorts of creepy ideas for doing that sketch. From Italy, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate that. We had somebody from South Africa, Xander, sharing a lot of incredible information with people from India and Pakistan, Israel, Palestine, Iraq, Canada, Great Britain, the United States. It's amazing to see the Friendly Neighborhood historians in action, and you can become a Friendly Neighborhood historian by liking and subscribing. What about the Arabs, Benito? I made Harry a moderator yesterday after you kind of clocked out. Okay, so Chris, you weren't asking about the state of Georgia. You were asking about the country of Georgia. You mean the country that had an established kingdom in the Middle Ages that was able to withstand Islamic invasions. I'm familiar with their history. Fascinating people. I don't know a huge amount about them. Obviously, fell under the influence, as did the Transcaucasus, of the Soviet Union, had a communist government that was eventually overthrown, a socialist republic like the Soviet Union, but in Georgia that was eventually freed after the fall of communism in the 1990s. And I am sorry for the sweating, but like I said, I'm beating a heat wave without air conditioning in this room, so sorry for that. So like and subscribe, get me monetized so that I can get some air conditioning installed in my studio. Let me see here. Hello, Gosam, great to see you. So Andrew, the claim by the Roman Catholic Church that there are 267 popes comes from the idea that Jesus gives the authority to run the church to the first bishop of Rome, Peter, who becomes the father of us all, Papa or Pope, and that is where the first pope comes from, and there's supposedly an unbroken line in Catholic theology going from Peter down to Leo XIV. Thank you for liking the live stream, really appreciate that. What is your religion? I don't share my personal religious views. I've said I believe in God. I don't say much more than that. And I try to treat all religions as fairly as I possibly can. Yes, Canaanites and Philistines were there first. He's referring to the land of Israel, and Jews moved in according to the comic book. Philistines, if we're to believe the biblical accounts are generally accurate, which we have some reason to think that they are generally accurate. I would say, if that's true, the Philistines, the sea peoples, arrive in the Levant about the same time that the Israelites are conquering it, supposedly under Moses and then a man named Joshua. Global warming is no bueno. And yes, I'm absolutely living proof of it right now. Thank you, Honk. Will Trump seek a third term? I don't know. I think he's working right now on a two-state solution. If he can get a two-state solution, it might just carry enough political momentum for him. He has to have more support amongst Democrats and in Congress to ever get there. I don't see it happening. I don't see them getting rid of the 22nd Amendment. I would say no. He's even said recently that it looks like J.D. Vance will be the next president, in his opinion. And if I were to bet right now, if I were a betting man, I'd say yes, J.D. Vance will be president in 2029. If African slavery lasted over 400 years and was the most significant loss of life historically, why should any of our atrocities be compared to it? 100 million people died under different communist regimes due to starvation, mass migration, imprisonment, and political assassinations. And basically liquidation. The Holocaust. There are so many other human atrocities that last in shorter periods of time that cause even more harmful suffering. And African slavery had a particularly nefarious, every genocide, ethnic cleansing, depopulation, dispossession, enslavement has a particular angle to it, Jan. And when it comes to African slavery, it depopulated Africa, making them susceptible to European colonization a few centuries later. It wasn't an intentional depopulation. It was something they were already used to, but the continual demand of slaves to the New World, especially to South and Central America by the Spanish and the Portuguese, led to a lot of problems as I continue to hydrate. South Africans sold Pakistan nukes. Which South Africans that? Galena, looks like, thank you for joining us. Hello. Into the history, Sir James Douglas, who carried Bruce's Braveheart around his neck on crusade. I believe he fell in Spain fighting the Saracens. Interesting. I would have to look into that. So Sir James Douglas fighting for the Reconquista, Spain's retaking of its land from the Muslims. Okay, interesting. Thank you so much, Shurkin, for sharing that. Why did Thailand never get colonized, but surrounding nations did? Thailand has always had the ability to remain well defended. It has a long-standing monarchy. Japan never got colonized because it was an archipelago, but Thailand actually at different periods avoided it by basically letting other kingdoms do whatever they wanted. Letting the British take Malaysia and Singapore was huge for that. Letting the Japanese through them to attack Indonesia and Australia and the East Indies during what I call World War III, you believe is World War II probably, was instrumental. Thailand has always been at the right timing. The efforts of the Dai Viet and the Khmer Empire kept China and the Mongols from colonizing Southeast Asia. So Thailand has been extraordinarily lucky, but also extraordinarily brilliant and fortuitous in its timing. Let me see here. Good topic. Henry IV of England wanted to be a great king, could have been one of England's best. His biggest problem was his leprosy. Harold. My job. Okay, then. Thoughts of Moloch. Isn't Moloch an ancient Babylonian or Canaanite deity? I have heard Kanye West's new song, and I don't think it's necessarily praising who it says it's praising. It's. I don't want to even say it because YouTube has hit me hard when I've talked about this stuff. It's obviously a ridiculously bad song, obviously a horrible message, written by a man who admits that he's in a dark place and that he's full of rage and anger, and that's why he has these views now. So, let me see here. Israel, Russia, and India have a nuclear weapons shared history. Somewhat. I wouldn't say that Israel has shared nuclear weapons with Russia. Yes, Georgia has been around for an extremely long time. That is absolutely true. How did ordinary Germans reconcile personal morality with Nazi ideology in daily life? That is a great question. So it's a spectrum. It's not black and white. It's not I knew nothing or I knew everything. The German people themselves, some of them knew what was going on and were okay with it. Some of them knew what was going on and didn't like it, Oskar Schindler. Some of them didn't know what was going on but felt powerless to stop it. Some of them really were simply, as they said, following orders. Some of them were suspicious. Some were very ignorant. And some people just convinced themselves that those were propaganda by the West or by their enemies. So people were brainwashed. People were manipulated. People believed they were following orders. people looked the other way. It's amazing the ability, and some people just fell right into it and believed it wholeheartedly. When we accuse a dictatorial or terrorist regime of doing something, we don't say the regime. We say the people. The German people in the 1930s and early 40s were held many traditional anti-Semitic views, generally speaking. There were many exceptions to these rules who either looked the other way, had no power to do it, were somewhat convinced of it for a time, or tried to fight it as much as they could, like, Oskar Schindler. But that's a fascinating question, and it really would take an entire live stream lecture to actually dive into that. But the truth of the matter is, the ability of the Nazis to manipulate people, lie to them, use the media to do it, shows the catastrophic results of mob mentality, of manipulation, and of scapegoating. Why ever admit to your own problems as a society under a imperialistically greedy Kaiser, when you could just simply say, we messed up? Why deal with that? Why take accountability when you can blame other people? And I know none of us are Nazis, Lord willing, hopefully, whatever expression you want to use. But I also feel that the truth of the matter is, we oftentimes would rather blame someone else for our problems. When you can manipulate that to a zenith, and you can blame other people, and you can lie, and you can manipulate, and you can give rousing speeches of anger, which is what Hitler sounds like. He just sounds like an angry, whatever you want to call him, when he's screaming. Maniac would be the best term. You can really alter things in the worst possible way, and really just take that inability to accept blame and the willingness to scapegoat to extremes. So I know there's a lot of questions. I promise I will get to them when I can, but that was a fantastic question. I appreciate that person. I said hi to. And Harry, you're doing a great job. Make sure to put the social medias in there, maybe the link to that President tier video. I have videos that drop every Friday and Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so please go check those out. I did 2 this last week that I'm very proud of. Mondays was the tier listing of the presidents. Fridays was the tier listing of English monarchs. So, Chris, I think you're overcompensating. Why were Jews expelled from so many countries? This is one of those fascinating things where people love to make it's a historical cart before horse argument. Jews were expelled from countries. Everyone and anti-Semites have used that to blame Jews. That's when they were expelled from Rome. They were expelled because they rebelled and were crushed and oppressed and didn't want to suffer under oppression. Who wants to suffer under oppression? When they were expelled from their own country, the first time, it was a similar situation. It's not so, and expelled from certain countries in Europe. Anti-Semitism, the hatred of the Jews, the blaming of them killing Christ, those were deeply seated in Europe long before anyone knew what a Nazi was. So, Georgia had wine before most of you were climbing. Okay, Chris, I see you like Georgia. You're probably from Georgia. Much respect to the country, but there's always a country that is more advanced and civilizationally developed than another. And if you want to go way back, you'd have to look at China, the Indus River civilization in Pakistan, Mesopotamia, and of course, ancient Egypt. So yes. No Step on Snake, great to see you. Long time. First American traders to Russia worked on the big boy nuclear bomb. That's interesting, Tommy Gunn. I'm not surprised about that. Well, you've got Fuchs, you've got the Rosenberg, stuff like that. Harry's doing a great job. And Hippie, thank you for liking and subscribing. Can you tell Jesus was white over 70 first-hand accounts of his appearance, all painting to the fact that he was white? Look up what the word Rudy means. Rudy, if I am correct, refers to red-haired or sunburnt, like I will be after this heat gets over. That doesn't mean someone is white. Let me see here. 100 million killed in India alone by British innumerable famines. There were several different famines. The largest one was in what I call World War III, Tiger, and that killed about 3 million. And there have been, and some famines are man-made, some famines are not man-made, and some are in the middle. Oh, Henry IV from the Holy Roman Empire. That's the one that refused to follow the Pope, and eventually the Pope basically crushed the power of the Holy Roman Emperor to rule on his own. Fascinating guy. Try to appoint his own bishops. Why do you think the fall of democracy we are seeing globally? I don't know if we're seeing that. I think democracy is not, American democracy doesn't fully exist in the way people think it does. I think certain countries, certain societies do not want democracy and are not programmed for them. And I think that the West has finally learned the very hard way that that's just not the way to go. Aren't the new buttons fun? I hope you're enjoying them. South African source of weapons grade uranium. Fascinating. Tommy, thank you for sharing that with me. Native Americans are from India originally. Not exactly. Many of them are supposedly from Polynesia, Micronesia, and East Asia, but they came thousands of years ago. Almost all people have been migrants at one point or another. Yeah. Ancient Jews depicted with red hair. Many of the people of the Levant depicted in art with red hair. Some of them, sure. I mean, yeah, it's not impossible, but that doesn't make them white. Ancient Jews were white. This is like when people come on and say that Jesus and his apostles were black. No, neither are true. It's somewhere in the middle. It's not white or black, literally. How do you see the global economy in the next few years? I think Bitcoin, the cryptocurrency argument, is gaining steam, that might become one of the more popular reserve currencies for certain nations and become one of the big players on the global trade. And if the tariffs continue with China, China's economy is going to be hurt, and so is the U.S. economy. We might see the arising of a third party. I hope you had a great day, Invincible, and I hope it's going even greater here at the Friendly Neighborhood History Channel. Yes, that's true, First Sarge. There was the use of opium, which was collected from poppy seeds and flowers and used to basically drug the Chinese in order to make them submissive. Let me see. I don't know what Tana asked, so I'm not sure. Let me see here. Yes, Arabs, Semitic peoples, not even Ashkenazi Jews, but more like Mizrahim Jews, darker skinned, not fully dark, but darker skinned than the idea of a white guy. Can you go more into the WW2, WW3 thing? I've never heard that perspective. It's something that other historians do share, but it's more of a popular historian idea. You don't see academics talking about it as much, even though I've studied in academia. The truth of the matter is, I believe that the First World War was actually the French-Indian War or the 7 Years' War. I have a video and a live stream on this. Please go check those out on the channel after liking and subscribing. And I basically explain in detail why I think that fighting in Africa, South America, North America, and Europe, and Asia, India, constitutes a world war with Britain, France, Spain, and their empires all involved in a long engaged fighting with new technologies, native groups fighting. It's how the British get Canada. It's how Catherine the Great rises to power and makes Russia one of the greatest empires in human history. It's how India starts to be controlled by the British. It's how Spain continues its imperial decline and eventually loses all of its colonies, or most of them, in the early 1800s. It bankrupts France, which leads to the French Revolution, and the British taxation of the American colonies will cause the American Revolution. So, like the other two world wars, this world war changes everything, and there is no modern German state that causes the second, what you call the First World War, the Great War, without the victory of Frederick the Great in the 7 Years' War. So Beetleby, that's why I think that. This is a normal Q&A. Tomorrow I'm doing a live stream lecture, 4 p.m. Eastern, where I will talk about the history of Father's and Mother's Day, and I'll probably do a little bit of Q&A at the end. But yeah, celebrating all mothers out there and throwing out a bone to the Father's Day too. Yes. King Jesus, I'm going to have to agree to disagree with you there, but I understand what you're saying. King of an unmentioned land. I wonder what land that might be. Oh, Xander, you're here. Great to see you. I was just singing your praises a second ago, and I'm not surprised that they did that. Might be the Philistines. Light is all. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Heinz Schmidt. Fascinating, Vincent. Thank you for sharing that. I'm sure did he share some of his experiences? Those experiences are some of the most, even historical experiences, even from sides that we consider, and for many reasons, are wrong, morally, ethically, whatever reason, are still historical experiences that need to be shared in what we call oral history. So, and yes, hippie gypsy, I do teach history. Germany won the First World War and then lost the next two. Light is all. You can guess how old I am. Bonjour. Thank you for joining us, Monsieur André. But I don't speak French fluently, but I love that you're here. That's not fully true. Let me see here. Let me see. I can't help but admire your luscious lips. Thanks. What's your ethnicity? You have black hair. No, I do not. It is just darkened because of the sweat. I know that's not exactly the most attractive thing to say while on a live stream, but I'm a Caucasian. I'm sure you can figure that out. You can guess from there. Let me see here. People arguing in the chat. I love it. At least they're talking about history. And sushi lover. I love sushi. So thank you for joining us. Please like and subscribe. You're in the right place if you like history. Yeah, that's not fully true. How do you do social and links? So social and video links, you can just go to the channel homepage on, I don't know if you're on a computer or on a phone, and get those and just copy and paste them into the chat, Harry. And then I will pin them. Oh, Steps got it. Thank you. Let me see here. Xander, what about the fact that the head of the Jews declared war on Germany long before their persecution was done in the U.S. and economic boycott was result in Germany? When was this? I am not sure about this. I have not heard much about that. Something we try to do here at the channel is be transparent. If I don't know something, I will admit it, and I want to learn more. And I've learned about things that I never thought before. I didn't know what Unit 731 was, or the USS Liberty incident before this. Some of them were depicted as red-haired King Jesus, but a lot of them were not, and there were less physical descriptions of them available than we have in modern times, because physical description, there were some that were. King David and Jesus just was described that way by Josephus, but not everyone was at that time. The Bolsheviks, some of them were Jews, but they were not practicing Jews by any stretch. I mean, Marx absolutely hated his Jewish roots. I think his father was an extremely liberal rabbi, from what I understand. Not extremely liberal, I shouldn't say that. He was a reform rabbi. And there's, and make sure to follow the Patreon where you get bonus, such as my series on the First Ladies. How do I know this? I've read, I've watched videos, I engage in multiple means of learning about history, which is what you're doing if you're enjoying this and reading the chat, because there's some very informative people in the chat like Xander and Harry. Maxwell, I say hi back to you. Let me see here. Were there non-Islamic empires in Afghanistan before Islam took over? Yes, there was a Grecian-inspired empire called the Bactriarch, and they were there. The Greeks could kind of conquer Afghanistan, but that was when Alexander's troops forced him to go back. And so after that, the Bactari, which sounds like something from Star Trek, they were in control of that land for centuries. And there were several different khaganates, which just means kingdoms, that dominated the stans, the Uzbekistans, the Turkmenistans, the Kazakhstans, that whole area there between Central and Southern Asia. So there were non-Islamic empires in Afghanistan long before that. Yes, indeed. And then the British, the Russians, and even you could say the American Empire tried to put their stamp there. Could you explain what you think the world would be like if Hitler didn't kill himself and continued his empire? I don't think he could have continued his empire. Who knows what kind of secrets could have been learned about his real agendas, or more of his agendas, at Nuremberg. Can you talk about Jewish influence? I did. I'm sorry, I'm trying my best to answer the chat. If you don't get your question asked, I promise you I'm getting to them, as long as they're not a troll. What are your views on the current India-Pak war? I'm glad you asked, Doria. I've been talking about it a lot in the chat today and yesterday, but basically, I'm sorry, I have to get rid of the sweat. Basically, I think with the India and Pakistan war, I don't like war. I don't like seeing war. I know what historical wars do. This is one of the first wars we have two nuclear powers going head to head. That could be extremely problematic. We haven't had a direct war like that so far in our history, where both powers are confirmed to have nuclear weapons. That's not happened before. That is dangerous. That could lead to intense amounts of suffering. So the sooner this war is over, the better. There has to be some understanding of India's relation to Pakistan. This might be, and what happens to Kashmir? Is Kashmir governed by a third party? Is it self-governed? Do they vote? How do they figure this out? A more radical Islamic government in Pakistan is not going to help India, which is extremely nationalistic, so much so they want to change their name back to the ancient Sanskrit name for them, Bharat. So, why everyone mad at China for fentanyl after years of oppression and drugs pushed on them just to open the borders? No one likes the same return. I don't think the U.S. exactly, or many of the countries that have had struggles with fentanyl necessarily were responsible for the opium trade. Great Britain is the main one there. And you've got the opium wars, you've got the Qing dynasty being hesitant to allow strangers in, and for good reason, obviously, given what the British did to them. So, So yeah, if he didn't kill himself, no step, he would have been executed after Nuremberg. Georgia has knight in the tiger's skin in 12th century, so rest the world. I've heard about that. That's a fascinating. It's fascinating, Georgia's history, their position in the Transcaucasus, all of that. Do you think Emperor Hirohito would have liked watching Mario viciously? Nah, probably not. I don't think Hirohito was into that. But good job. You almost trolled me. Shakespeare constantly depicted Jews with red hair in his plays because it was historically known they were red-haired. No, that's... Okay, are we back? Can you guys hear me? Okay, sorry about that. Good, we are back. So what happened was and we are way down, a bunch of people dropped up, but that's okay. Main thing that happened, I have a light that illuminates my face more, makes it easier for you to see me, and it got too hot, and that led to it basically turning the phone overheating. So I just cooled it down for a minute, stopped and restarted, and now we are back to where we were, back to our good show. If you haven't liked and subscribed, now is the time to do it. I saw the chat was active. It's always fun to know the chat is still active, even when I am not, so I really apologize for that. I've got my light turned off now, so I may not look as good. The lighting may not be that nice, but at the very least, we are doing our friendly neighborhood history thing, and hopefully the phone doesn't get too much hotter because everything was fine. And then I grabbed this, and it was really, my light behind it was really hot. So it's not my air conditioning that's fixed. It's that I don't have this is kind of an annex, and it doesn't have the central air conditioning. So I may have to do my live streams in another room where I'm staying. So let's see, where were we with questions? I don't know where we were. I was behind. I am so sorry if I was behind on questions and stuff like that. I'm trying to catch up. I saw some stuff about Pakistan, King Jesus saves. I appreciate your passion. I'm glad you're here. I hope you've liked and subscribed. I don't agree with you. I've read what you're talking about. I've heard these arguments before. It doesn't make any sense to me why people are so hell-bent on proving that Jesus of Nazareth was black or white. Nobody has these arguments about Muhammad. Nobody has these arguments about Buddha. It's all because he was a Jew. That's what it comes down to, and that bothers me to no end. Because Jews are not all white. There are far more white Jews that Ashkenazi. No Europeans would have considered them white when they were persecuting and killing them for hundreds of years. But there are a lot of Jews who are white. There are less Jews who happen to be with black pigmentation. Most Jews who lived in the Levant in that time were of the Mizrahim, or the Middle Eastern variety of Jews, and they were generally darker skinned, olive complexion, but even darker than that, and are close in many of their physical characteristics to the Arabs. So there you go. Anyways, so, and I'm sorry about the sweat. I'm sorry about all of that. It's because of how I'm going to have at least a fan up tomorrow. So we'll have that going for you guys. But we are back, and I hope you are enjoying this. And yeah. So the topic is whatever you'd like it to be. Ask anything about history, and I will answer it in a friendly neighborhood way, because this is the Friendly Neighborhood History channel. And if you want to be a friendly neighborhood historian, just like and subscribe. And yeah, I don't have a Discord. I was talking to the wife of a friend who advised to me that a Discord. She has an incredible stream and an incredible channel, and I looked it up and I can't find it. And I've got to get the name of it and give it to you guys. Wanted to plug her, but she told me that Discord would be great, so I should do that. What I'd like to do on Discord, I do play video games, not as much as many people my age, but I do play video games, and I would like to actually do a live stream talking about different historical things while I'm playing a video game. A real-time strategy game, something like that. I don't do Sid Meier, but maybe like Rise of Nations, which is a way big throwback, and just play that and maybe talk about some history. Maybe do a live stream on Hearts of Iron while I'm playing Hearts of Iron while I'm talking about World War. So let me see. Hello, Yasir. So I'm glad you're paying attention now. I appreciate that. Thank you for liking and subscribing. Yeah, the Austrian painter. MK Ultra, Mark, was the government, confirmed this, the government's plan of experimenting with LSD, which was common by aristocrats, high-ranking people. Aldous Huxley, Cary Grant in the 50s experimented with it often. The government wanted to see what it would do if it was used on the general population. They sprayed it they used it in pesticides. They sprayed it in people in subway stations and alleyways, all of that stuff. It's true. The U.S. government does not deny it. And I hear the ice cream truck, and I could use some ice cream right about now. But I've got another 15 minutes or so of answering your wonderful questions and giving hopefully good answers. Israel or Palestine? Both. Which side am I on? India or Pakistan? Again, both. Let's get this over as soon as possible. That's what I'm hoping. It doesn't matter what color Jesus was, but he was undoubtedly was white. King, I appreciate that you say that, but after dying on the hill of Jesus was white, I don't think it matters. I think it does matter to you what color he was. Remake the presidential list. Woodrow Wilson should not be in B tier. Hey, there's going to be people who are mad that LBJ is in C tier and FDR is not in A or S tier. Reagan is in A tier. That's going to make people mad, and that's mainly because of foreign policy. I have a very particular explanation for why I put presidents in these tiers. Wilson's a B tier president. When you win a world war, you get in B tier. It's almost a default. Did you ever hear that the Nazis used guillotine more than the French did, that killed most of their officers with it? I've heard that before. I don't know if it's true. Interesting, Stephen. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. And it's good to see you again. So we should get a Discord. I don't know when I can get it. I have to have another day to stream, basically. So let me see here. It was heavy in the cities, that's for sure. Stabs, what's your question? Don't yell it. When you type all caps, it just sounds like yelling to me, or it seems like yelling to me. Let me see here, just going through it. Zionist scumbag. I love it when people accuse me of being a Zionist when they don't know what Zionism is. Why were the Nuremberg trials considered unfair? I don't think they were unfair at all. What was unfair was that it took so long to bring people like Eichmann to justice. Mengele never got brought to justice, and people like Goering or Goebbels, not Goering, Goering was hung. Goebbels, I think it was one of them killed himself before he could be hung, and another one was hung. I don't think it was unfair. No, I don't think Jesus was Korean, YW, but go ahead and make my chat all about that for the next half hour. Stalin was trying to kill as many Jews as he possibly could, but he did not kill more than Hitler. Hey, call me Olive. Great to see you. Which, as it supports the current status quo, which is an illegal occupation, it's a weak answer. Many doctors, I don't know if Israel necessarily supports a two-state solution. I've said that if everyone can just get the extremism out of their governments, that might be very possible. It's not a weak answer at all. It's an informed answer, because I know the history of the region, and I know the Arabic, Semitic, Palestinian claim to the land, and I know the Jewish one. So it's not a neat answer. So, was 9/11 a single case, or has an airplane ever vertically demolished one or two buildings? When you can catch the building on fire, and when the bars start to melt, and the rebar starts to melt, I'm not a huge science person, but when that building can collapse, yes, it's very possible that a plane crashing into a building can cause it to collapse, even a skyscraper. I don't know who that is, Olive. I don't know who Munich is. Do you have any controversial theories or some ideas far different from official thoughts? I'm not big on Oswald killing Kennedy. I think that there's more to it than the MLK assassination than a Southern racist named James Earl Ray. Those are some of the big ones. I've been intrigued by the idea that Watergate was an inside job to take Nixon down. But my biggest theory that people don't, those are conspiracy theories. My biggest theory is that 7 Years' War is World War I, making World War I World War II, and the Nazis in Japan World War III. It took him a lot longer, but he had no problem killing them in large droves when he starved 6 million of them or killed 3 million of them in purges. A Zionist is someone who believes that the Jewish people have a right to live in the Levant. It's that simple. It is not a cop-out. I just think you don't like the answer because you want a free Palestine state from the river to the sea. I don't think you should have made a socialist a moderator, Terry. Or made you a conservative a moderator. While we're on that job, the Palestinians don't need to do anything. Israel should follow international law. The Palestinians don't need to get rid of Hamas. Mahmoud Abbas is not corrupt. The West Bank is not dangerous. Huh. I didn't catch that part. And this is never saying Israel's perfect, because I never do. I've talked about the Lavon affair. I've talked about the USS Liberty. I've talked about Mossad. I've talked about a lot of those things. I'm critical of both sides. Believe it. Believe me. It's hard for me to reconcile, and I've said the war needs to stop. Israel needs to stop dropping bombs. The idea of killing more Palestinians just seems utterly barbaric at this point. So yeah. Yes, Harsh, you're just trying to start a fire. Don't take on Harry. Do you believe in the theory that the moon landing did indeed happen, but a lot of footage is fake? No, I'm pretty solid on the moon landing. Much to the disappointment of Candace Owens. Not that she cares what I think. But I'm white, so she might. Oh yes, one stream suspension. Well, I'll see what I can do. Thank you, Harry. I don't know if Freshly's here, so. Chris, no one's going to admit that, because most people think you're talking about a state. I thought you were talking about a state because you weren't clear. Tony, I say hi back. Let me see here. I thought Zionism was specifically a movement to settle Jews into mandatory Palestine in the aim of reclaiming the ancient Israel. Yes, and it's based on the idea that Jews deserve their own national state in their ethnic homeland. Yeah, it's true. Well, first, Sarge, you and King J have been going back and forth. It's never okay to kill Palestinians. It was never okay to kill Jews. We can all agree to that. Let me see here. Are you a fan of tariffs? So, as a historian, I've heard a lot of people claim that tariffs historically have been helpful. I can see why they would think that in the 19th century with a non-global economy. When you have a global economy the way it's developed now, tariffs only hurt everyone involved. It's basically, I will hurt you, but I will also hurt myself. I'm just hoping I hurt you more. So no, I'm not a huge fan. But again, my opinion is historical. What happened to the Dutch East India Company after it disbanded, like the assets and all that? I think most of it was returned to the Dutch government, and that allowed them to continue their control over Indonesia for centuries. I did an entire live stream lecture on the Dutch Golden Age last week. I think they disbanded in the 1600s, 1700s, something like that. I have looked into the Shroud of Turin. So, what do you think is the most important non-military moment that shaped American power globally? I think the decision to contain communism and form NATO, the Truman Doctrine, might be it. That is not a military, it is a ideological commitment. Mitty, I think you need to educate yourself on that area of the world. So we'll start there. When 9 May is the day, you're from Russia, thank you for joining us. From when USSR won in World War II, I believe it's World War III, but to each their own. I think that World War II didn't start if English and American capitalists don't support Germany. They didn't. Some of them did, individuals like Hearst or Ford, but really the perception of Hitler was as a strong man who had stabilized his country. That turned out to be completely false. The perception of Stalin was that he was a strong man who stabilized his country. That turned out to be false. Personally, neither of us are moderators, and in fairness, okay. Let me see. Chris, I'm not jumping your comments. I'm just kind of tired of them at this point. I'm jumping a lot of comments that I'm tired of, and I'm trying to catch up to people who are actually asking history questions and not just repeating the same points over and over again. I appreciate where you're coming from. I love Georgia too. We love Georgia here in the channel. We love any country and any history here in the channel because we're the friendly neighborhood history channel, but I'm not just going to accept that Georgia is the greatest country in the world because I don't say that about anyone. Yeah, the America being unharmed by both world wars in the 20th century and then becoming more politically and economically dominant and hegemonic, definitely. So Simu, I agree with you. And I'm trying to catch up to the chat, so if you have a question, don't worry, I'll answer it as soon as I can. I don't know who that is. King Bulan of Kazuria. You're going to have to educate me there, Jan. The culture of the 80s began in 1978 and ended in 1995. That's a fair point. Thank you for joining us from Italy, Rome. That's always awesome. Could Gorbachev's policies in the new Union Treaty have succeeded, or was that all doomed? Gorbachev was between a rock and a hard place as soon as he decided to become a moderate and work with Reagan. Gorbachev wanted the Soviet Union to remain in basically adopting Alexander Dubček's Czechoslovakian model from 1968, socialism with a human face. This mitigation only weakened the government and led a lot of people to want to overthrow it completely, and made the hardliner communists want to get rid of him, which happened originally. He was replaced and then overthrown by the right. So Gorbachev couldn't please anyone from the left or from the right. And Andrew's different type of Florida, different type of Georgia. With NATO and the UN, we only need one. Personally, with the EU, NATO is dead. Thoughts? I understand that perspective a lot. It doesn't seem like NATO was created to keep the Soviet Union from expanding its power and influence. That is long overdue. It is now about military and defense and international cooperation. You have the EU, you have the European Common Market, you have the IMF, you have the UN, you have many supranational organizations that already are dedicated to doing that. I don't know if NATO is necessary. I understand why people want it around. Oh, excuse me. What do you know about a liquor named Mal or jalapeno? Tastes like solvents that are used for cleaning car parts. And we are back. I am very, very sorry about that again. Same thing happened. It's just really hot in this room. I apologize for all the technical difficulties. Hopefully you can hear me now. Let's see here. We're just overwhelmed by all of the great questions and everyone. Let me see. Well, you know, you got your KJS got his own nickname, so that's good to see. Can anyone hear me? Okay, I hope you can hear me. I'm glad everyone's behaving themselves in the chat. I have no idea how much longer I have. I'm really sorry about the cutting in of the stream. That's mainly because of the emergency thing, the temperature and all of that. But yeah, I'm probably going to need to wrap up in a couple of minutes just because as I move around to get some ventilation and all of that to hopefully cool the phone down. I'm worried about it crashing out again, and I'm really sorry for all the technical challenges. But hey, this is one of the most successful live streams we've had. And so I really appreciate everybody for doing that, for liking and subscribing. If you haven't done so, please do that before you leave. I don't know where I was with questions and answers. My phone feels like it's cooling down, so that's good. Where do you think all of the U.S. accents derive from, and particularly the Southern accent? It's based on the development of the English language in the region of the people who were in that land. So a lot of the Southern people who settled in the South were Irish and Northern English, and so they had a different dialect. Many of them did not even speak English or were writing in English until the 17th century. So did the Russians and the Germans use the same excuse to expel the Jews? To some extent. There's many different reasons for it. There's jealousy of Jewish success, there's suspicion of Jewish failure, there's anger at Jewish Marxism, there's frustration with Jewish capitalism, and there's obviously condemnation of any sort of relationship where people blame Jesus, the death of Jesus, on Jews. So, let me see here. Let me see. What did we get from Beetleby? I don't really. I'm pretty much a free speech absolutist. I'm not going to ban anyone necessarily. Maybe a timeout. The first female president, that would be a good live stream lecture. You know, I might want to do that soon. That might be something good to do tomorrow. She was a mother too, so. Let me see here. Could Tesla have finished Wardencraft with today's tech? I don't know. Let me see here. Yes, the 20s were indeed a roaring good time. Jay, you have your eras down pat. It's in the late 90s Fahrenheit, and it's supposed to cool down tomorrow, so hopefully we won't have these problems, and hopefully you can join us at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow for our one on Mother's Day, where I talk about the history of Mother's Day in my live stream lecture. Why do you think American accent is so dang loud? I hope I'm not loud, and everyone has an accent. I'm glad you're admitting that. 5% everything else, that sounds about right. There's so much amalgamation amongst Europeans, it's ridiculous, from European ancestry in America. So I'm sorry about the buffering and that. I've heard that, Mark. I'm not sure if that's fully true. It's definitely not optimal to run a diesel engine with vegetable oil. If you like history, Rome is perfect. G-Light, I have an entire series on the Roman emperors, so please check that out. Who has the And yeah, hippie, anyone can tell me to get educated on something. People are ignorant and share their ignorance, and sometimes I'm ignorant. I've had many moments where I don't know things. Canada's not going to be the 51st state, but thank you for trying to make me, for making me try to think that. Do you think Gaddafi was good for Libya, or was the collapse of Libyan society during the drought his fault? I think I think Libya might have been slightly better, or less worse is the better term, under Gaddafi than it is now. Hot take. I give him all the time, but yeah. Angie, I appreciate that. Thank you. We can go. I'm not a big surfer, Jay, so. Harry's a great moderator. No, it's okay, Will. You don't want to smell it right now. It's full of sweat. And yes, I am light skinned, even though I'm kind of olive because of exposure in the sun. So, let's see. Have you read Culture of Critique? I have not, Nighthawk. What is that about? Surfing will change your life for the better. I appreciate that, Jay. I'm sure it has done wonders for your life, and I appreciate you plugging it. Now, go onto a surfing live stream and plug this channel and tell them how much it's changed your life. My favorite subject is 900s to Inns of Crusades, also Scottish Wars of Independence. Definitely fascinating things, high Middle Ages, can't go wrong there. And you might like my series on English and British monarchs then, and my most recent long-form video out every Monday and Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern about where I tier list the English and British monarchs. So please go check that video out. If you guys can find the link, please put it in the chat. So yeah, America does have history, and it includes far more than just the United States and the Caucasians. How Hitler stabilized the country with abandoned economy without gold reserves of huge amount of reparation. He unleashed the German manufacturing, Germany's natural resources. He ignored all sorts of restrictions on military buildup. And when you can build up your military, you can become extraordinarily wealthy even during a depression. Just ask Franklin Roosevelt, who did the same model in 1940 to get ready for joining the war. Would China have developed faster had the Kuomintang won? I don't know. It would have been interesting. They would have had a closer relationship with the United States. The Cold War would probably have ended sooner. I think we can all learn from even the less intelligent people to the most. Absolutely. We all have different things and different knowledge. What do people think would have happened if the United States put its full weight and support behind the Canadian rebellions of 1837, 1838? Could we have seen a Canadian annexation? Probably not. But I think the United States could have gotten British Columbia. It was land it was already occupying, so that's a possibility. Let me see here. Was the Knights Templar a start to the Freemasons? No. They did not come to the United States either. And I have read Steinbeck. I love Steinbeck. What historical things do you do, bro? I teach, and I do this Q&A. I do daily videos all the time. I'm doing a short series right now on Russian history, and I do long-form videos every Monday and Friday. So, South Park is coming back. Thank you, Triple, for sharing that. American history is funnier than strong women. Whatever. And yes, I've heard that argument, Mark. FDR is not the president a lot of people think he is. So, book by Kelly McDonald that promote anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. Interesting. I have to read it. It's becoming more. It's not necessarily out of date, but it's the United States is moving away from it or trying to go beyond it, and that's why Trump is doing what he's doing with Palestine right now. I understand your justification of Calvin Coolidge. I just don't agree with it. How many wars has India now faced with its Arab neighbors? It is strange that every region except China, who stomped them, has repeated wars with them. India is in a crossroads place. It has a lot of resources, supplies, and people, and manpower, forced labor, and resources appeal to empires from anywhere. So thank you, in no way affiliated. I appreciate you too. And thank you for joining us for Hippie. You've been so nice. I really appreciate you. Raggy, this is the Friendly Neighborhood History channel where we bring you history in a friendly, neighborly manner, answering all your questions and answers. Questions related to history, social studies, and the like. Was Gorbachev a doom of the USSR, or was the decline inevitable? I don't like the term inevitable in history, but the USSR was definitely in decline. Do you think the partition of India was a good choice or a mistake? I'm starting to think that and I don't like saying that any country was better under colonial rule, but in some ways there wasn't this during the British occupation. That's just a trade-off. The partition needs to be revisited badly. Did you take my recommendation against Freshley? He's not here, so I can't take it. Freshley isn't here, so I can't take the recommendation. Imagine having MLK as part of your history, or Dylan Mulvaney. Okay, Chris, I love MLK. You're not going after my guy there. I have a video on MLK and MLK Day, the history of the holiday. You guys can go check that out. So thank you, Chris, for giving me a segue to praise MLK. So I don't know who that is, Cross, so I can't answer. Is it true that Gaddafi and Saddam wanted off U.S. dollars so they died? There might be some truth to that. They hated the U.S. Do you believe older fighter jets could outperform modern fighter jets? I don't think so. Thank you, Hippie. I appreciate that. And tell him to check out this channel. I would be happy to have him. So, anyways, I am going to sign off. We've gone over an hour. We usually only do an hour of Q&A. But if you want more, have more questions and you want them answered, fear not. We do this every Friday and Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tomorrow's my live stream lecture. I will talk about the history of Father and Mother's Day and how it developed. It's an Angloid holiday, a UK, Canada, American holiday. And afterwards, I should have time, probably about a half an hour, to answer your questions related to history and social studies. So I hope you guys join us tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, half an hour of lecture, and then you guys can get a bunch of your questions answered. I know I missed a lot, but I'm doing my absolute best to answer all of your questions in a timely manner, in a friendly, neighborly manner. And make sure to follow me on those social medias and all of that good. So, yes. Jan, no, they should not thank God for colonialism. I don't think that's, I am not saying the Indians should do that either. Do you think Israel will live in peace as they continue like this? They will make more enemies and thus will want a buffet in between them, so they will want more land. You mean buffer? Yeah, I think that Israel has done a lot of damage to its international prestige, reputation, and has really desensitized a lot of people to the idea of withstanding and opposing Israel. So yeah. David, I'm continuing. Great to see you, by the way. Thank you for joining us again. I'm not reading much about it, but I'm interested in seeing if Trump and his government might be interested in divulging more government secrets. They've already done it with the JFK and RFK files, so maybe that'll help us with the Mother's Day hunt. Fidel, it's not worldwide. It exists in many different cultures in many different ways, but at different times during the year. And Mark, live long and prosper. There you go. Anyways, yes, Harry and Hars are, despite their differences, would be a great team if they work together. I absolutely agree. And First Sarge, thank you for holding down the chat in your own way. I appreciate you. I appreciate everybody for a great Q&A, maybe the best we've ever had. And yes, much love indeed. Take care. Have a great night. Stay safe out there. And I will see you tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure to like and subscribe on your way out. Go check out that long-form video, those long-form videos. And welcome to the Friendly Neighborhood History channel. If you've liked and subscribed, you are a friendly neighborhood historian. I so enjoy seeing you again on the chat and in the channel. Take care. And Hars is saying goodbye, and I'm saying goodbye as well. And remember, love history.